What's up, everyone? You're listening to WXSU. I'm Jonathan Lee, and this is the JjLee Hockey Show once again. Just, just once again, just like other weeks, just talking about the NHL stuff going on, and we're gonna get into it. We're about a week and a half into, sorry, 2.5 weeks into the NHL season, so there's plenty to talk about. First, we had some extensions recently in the past week. The St. Louis Blues re-signed Jake Neighbors to a 2-year contract worth 3.75 million a year, which I think this is a good deal. Last season he had, or sorry, so far this season he has 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 points in 8 games. And last season he had 27 goals, 11 assists, and 38 points in 77 games. So we're looking at a guy who's like a pretty good second liner, or like a decent second liner. And like I said, last year he put up 27 goals, so almost a 30 goal scorer last year. And so far this year, it's looking like he could do the same thing again. So for 3.75 million, I think that's a great deal for St. Louis. And yeah, I think he's just a really good second line forward, like a second line guy who can put up 20 to 30 goals a year. Um, Moving on, the Vegas Golden Knights re-signed Shea Theodore to a 7-year contract worth 7.42 million a year, which I think this is a great deal. I feel like people have kind of forgotten about Theodore the past few years just because he's been injured so much. Like last season, he played just 47 games. Season before that, 2022-23, he just played 50. He just played 50, 55. So he's missed a lot of time, but when he's healthy, I'd say he's still a very good top pair guy. This season, he already has 7 points in 6 games, and over the past 3 seasons when he's played, and in 108 games played, he's had 14 goals, 76 assists for 90 points. So like I said, he gets injured a lot, unfortunately, but when he's healthy, he's still a very good top pair guy. And he is 29 now, but so he'll be that contract takes him until he's 36. However, Vegas is deeply in win now mode right now, and in 7 years they're not going to be good anyway. Like they're going to be going through a rebuild. So I think this to just go all in now is best. And yeah, locking up your a top 20 defenseman for 7 years is always good. So good deal for Vegas. Um, Earlier today, we saw the New York Rangers resign Alexi Lafreniere for 7 years, 7.45 million a year, and I think this is also a great deal for the team for New York. This season, he already has 7 points in 7 games, and last year he broke out, putting up 57 points in 82 games. So the first few seasons, he was really looking like he might be a bust. Of course, the 2023 playoffs, he was very disappointing, especially, but he really broke out last year to kind of shut down that narrative. By this point, I don't think he's going to meet the expectations he had pre-draft. Like pre-draft, he was supposed to be like an elite superstar. I don't think he'll be that by this point, but I do think he will be a solid first line guy. So it is still disappointing considering his expectations, but I do think he'll still be a good player for the Rangers over the next several years, a good contributor for them. So good for them to lock him up for 7 years. We have a coach extension now. The Florida Panthers re-signed Paul Maurice to a multi-year extension, which I don't know the full. I've not been able to find all the details on it, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they've officially been released yet, so I'm not sure what the exact term or money is. But I think this is a good deal. When they first hired him, I thought it was bad. I wasn't too crazy about it because I thought it was kind of a recycling of a kind of older coach who's not really as effective anymore. But he's proven me wrong. And it's third year. He's currently in his 3rd year in Florida, and during that time, the record is 99, 59, and 15, and he has a point six hundred four, sorry, point 614 save points percentage while he's been there. So um, of course, last year he got them to a Stanley Cup. The year before that, he got them to a Stanley Cup final despite being the second wildcard team in the East. They upset the Boston Bruins and really just played with so much grit throughout that entire playoff run to get to the Stanley Cup final. So he's done a good job coaching them, and I think it's a good move for them to lock him up. Um, After this, we have some assignments to AHL. The New Jersey Devils assigned rookie Seamus Casey to the AHL. Casey had 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 points in 8 games this year in his rookie year. So the future's looking good for him. I think they just sent him down because they're not ready to have him play full time yet, and they don't want to lose a year on his like. Yeah, they want him to. I guess they want him to develop more probably, like because he might not play the most this year. I've not actually been able to had time to watch a lot of the games around the league, so I don't know for sure the whole situation. But my guess is that they're just not ready to give him like a full time role yet. But the future's looking good for him if he can keep this up. Of course, looked good in the first few games this year, so it's looking good for him moving forward. And then my favorite one, the New York Rangers have sent Matt Rempe down to AHL as well, and it just cracks me up how last season so many people were hyping him up, going crazy about him, and talking about how like he's this amazing fighter, he's gonna be the next big enforcer goon of the NHL, and he really is not that good of a fighter. He lost most of his fights. He got into a lot of fights. I give him credit for that, but he didn't win a lot of them. And you just look at him. He's really not a good fighter, and he's an even worse hockey player. Like he's got to be one of the worst skaters I've ever seen in the NHL. And this is my ninth season watching NHL, and he's got to be one of the worst skaters I've ever seen. So we saw him training hard with his fighting over the off season. So maybe that's kind of helps. I mean, I don't think he's been in a fight yet this season. So we'll see what happens there. But the league is just getting more and more fast paced and more finesse. You know, teams are more like on skills to where we don't have or like teams aren't gonna like less and less. It's gonna be less and less common to see guys who just fight to be in the NHL or to get a role. Like Ryan Reeves, for example. I know he's also gotten really slow throughout as he's gotten older, but his roles just gotten less and less because he can't contribute to the lineup. He brings a lot of toughness, but he can't like put up any points or anything. Um, I know, of course, as much as a lot of people don't like Tom Wilson on my Caps, he's a very effective player, very good player on top of being a good fighter and enforcer. So it's like you don't have to be putting up Wilson's numbers to be in like to get a spot in the NHL when you're a tough guy, but like you at least need to be a solid like fourth liner. Whereas Rempe, he had he had 0 points in 2 games this season, and one goal and 1 assist for 2 points last season in 17 games. Like he's not a good player at all. If it wasn't for his fighting, he would have been in the AHL already, like before now. So you can't just be a goon anymore in this day of the NHL. It's getting more and more finesse, the game's getting faster, so you have to be at least a good player. And like I said, getting faster. His skating is not good at all. He cannot skate, so it's just funny when everyone was going crazy about him saying, because everyone heading into the season was saying he's gonna have a big year. He's going to be getting into so many fights and everything, and I just said, I if I was him, I'd be more worried about trying to become a better skater than practicing fighting because the game is getting faster, and eventually, if you can't be a good roster contributor, if you can't skate, then it's not going to go well for you. So Matt Rempe in the NHL now. We'll see if he makes it back to the NHL anytime soon. But I'm loving this. Next, we have some unfortunate news for the St. Louis Blues. Robert Thomas was out for 6 weeks with a fractured ankle, which this is a huge blow to our lineup. He's out. He's probably their best forward, or you could debate him and Kyrou, but this season he has 6 points in 7 games, and last season he had 86 points in 82 games. So we're talking about their number one center, a top 20 center in the league in my opinion. So not having him for 6 weeks is going to be a huge blow to them. We'll see what they can do if they can continue playing well, if they can adapt to play well without him. Jordan Kyrou's doing really good, so maybe we'll see other guys take a step forward. Robert Thomas is out, but it's definitely looking like it'll be a big blow for St. Louis. We had the Frozen Frenzy this week. That was a huge success for the league once again. Or like it was. I think it's a great thing that they added last season. The stats from the Frozen Frenzy are as follows: in 16 games, there were 98 goals, 6.1 goals per game, 958 shots, 861 saves, and 1 hat trick. So I think this is great for the game. Having every single team play on one night, and it's just a lot of very exciting games too, high scoring, and you got some rivalries. So just amazing thing for the game, in my opinion. We have a milestone: Sergei Bobrovsky with 400 wins, and I think that he's in my opinion, definitely a Hall of Famer. His resume is as follows: in 707 games played, 400 wins, 915 save percentage, 2.59 goals against average, 44 shutouts, two-time All-Star, two-time Vezina winner, and of course was a huge part in the Florida Panthers Stanley Cup championship last year. So he's had a very good career, been one of the best goalies in the league for the past decade plus, actually. Of course, did have a few years like after he left Columbus where he wasn't as good as he used to be, but he's past 2 3 years he's gotten back to being a very elite goalie, and I think he is definitely a Hall of Famer. Um, yeah, not much more to say, but congrats to Sergei Bobrovsky on 400 wins. And then we had some some greatness recognizing greatness this week too. Ovechkin, of course, has had kind of a slower start to the season. I'm hoping he can get back together sooner rather than later. Get back to his usual self like he did last year. But Ovechkin was mentioned in an interview quote when he was talking about Wayne Gretzky, who he's obviously pursuing, whose record he's obviously pursuing goal record, and he's now 40 away from the record. He said, and quote, he said, even when I have a slump, he will sometimes text me and say, quote, don't worry, it will come. He's on my side, which that's a good. I really like that from Gretzky. Just such a class act, and he's obviously rooting on Ovechkin to break this record. And I think thing is, people keep saying Ovechkin's not going to break it because he started to slow down, which I mean he might be, but I don't think he's going to retire until he gets it because I think he does still score. Even if he slows down this year, I think he will still score at least 20 to 25 goals like minimum, and by that point he'd be like 20 away. His Then next year he could probably get about the same at this. We're talking minimum here. He could get minimum the same, and even if he doesn't break the record, he has 2 more years left on his contract, including this year. Even if he doesn't have the record after that contract ends, he should still be very close to where I don't think he'd retire when he's that close. I think he'd sign another year to go get it. So I don't see why there's so many people doubting he's going to get the record at this point. Even if he slows down, I think he will still keep playing till he gets it. And then we also have from Connor McDavid. They asked him who should be the captain of Team Canada in the Four Nations tournament, and McDavid said, "quote It should be Sid, no question," which is another class act by McDavid, who will likely be the captain eventually. But Crosby's obviously a legend, and McDavid obviously recognizes that as the best player in the game right now. He's looking at the legend who's been one of the best players of the past, who's one of the best players ever. So yeah, very classy by McDavid, and I'm a Caps fan, so the Penguins are my least favorite team, but Crosby has my full respect. He's a legend, and I agree he should be the captain of Team Canada for sure. Um, we have some more news going on, but actually, you know what? I'm gonna take a break to play some music, and then I'll get back to in a few minutes. I'm gonna start talking about just the standings right now and some more like pieces of news surrounding each team. So I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm gonna play some music. I apologize for the past few minutes. I was talking and then I realized I didn't have my mic on, so sorry about that. Just a few minutes of like nothing, but without no after I stopped the music. But anyway, let's continue the show. I'm gonna talk about some of the standings right now, and I'm just gonna go through the standings so far and just give my thoughts on some of the teams, not all of them, but just some of them that have something I think worthy to talk about. And look in the Metro. The New York Rangers currently lead the Metro who are 5-1-1, the reigning President's Trophy winners. And you look at their team, their stars are once again doing great. But I'll get into the problem in a minute. Artemi Panarin currently has 14 points in 7 games. Adam Fox, one of the best defensemen in the league, has 8 points in 7 games. So he's over a point per game right now. Alexei Lafreniere and Vincent Trocheck both have 7 points. And Igor Shesterkin has a 926 save percentage and 2.16 goals against average, maybe proving that maybe he does deserve, or he probably does deserve to be the highest paid goalie in the league. The problem with the Rangers, though, is a lot of the stars tend to go quiet in the playoffs after having a great regular season. Panarin's the biggest culprit of that. So like last year he had I think he was still a point per game just about in the playoffs, but for a guy who put up 120 points in the regular season, that is still pretty disappointing. Like you do still expect more. So he's one of those guys where no matter what he does in the regular season, no one's going to care until until he shows he can sustain it in the playoffs. So we'll see what he can do, but I just think we have to wait until the playoffs and see if if it really is going to matter, because we know he can do this in the regular season. He's one of the best winners in the league in the regular season, but the playoffs are when we really need to see where he really has something to show or something to prove. Um, Moving on, you have the New Jersey Devils, who are currently 5-4-1 second, and they have cooled down a little bit since their amazing red hot start. But I do still think they're a legit team. I think they are bouncing back this year after having a disappointing season last year, close to that team in 2022-23 that put up 112 points. So I think they are a legit team and are going to make the playoffs again, make it back to the playoffs this year. Then in third, you have the Capitals, who are currently 5-1, which I'm loving. After losing their first game, they've won five in a row and have been looking really good. I'll probably end the show with some Caps news like I usually do. So I'll talk about that in a bit. Then in fourth you have the Hurricanes, who are currently 4-2. So once again, one of the top teams in the Metro. Um, Penguins. Then fifth you have the Pittsburgh Penguins, 3-4-1, which I couldn't get the hype that some people had behind the Penguins because and by hype, I'm not saying people predicted them to be top contenders, but people were having saying they should be like a lot of people thought they were like a lock to win the wild card spot or get a wild card spot, and I just never saw it. Outside of Crosby and Malkin, that forward core is really underwhelming. Malkin's having an amazing start, currently 11 points so far. Crosby has 7, which is actually slower for his standards, but I think he will pick it up. And then my Lars Eller, former Caps 2018 Cup hero, currently has 6 points, so he's been a surprise for them. But outside of those three, like you got that's like two or three players basically in the forward core. Outside of that, it's pretty underwhelming. No one really catches my attention. Their defense is okay. They've got guys like Eric Carlson, Chris Letang, Marcus Pettersson, Matt Grzelcyk, but I really it still doesn't really like make me think they can be any better because like my thing is because also Carlson and Letang are pretty bad defensively. Like they put some decent offensive numbers for defensemen, but their defensive games are both pretty bad by this point. And my thing is, if they can't do good with Crosby and Malkin doing this well, then I don't really see them doing much better. One thing worth noting is Tristan Jarry has been terrible for them. They've switched to I forget who their other backups are but like he's been a healthy scratch a few times already because his save percentage is currently .836 and his goals against average is 5.47 goals against average. So he's having a really terrible start. We'll see if he can get back together, but it's not looking good for him right now. Um, but yeah, I thought I just think the Penguins are this very mid to below average team, or I should say average to below average. They're not. I don't think they're horrendous, but they're not very good. There's man, and just I mean, there's just no. I don't see how anyone thought they were like a lock to get a wild card spot. And you got the Blue Jackets are currently 3-3, so 500. The Islanders are currently 2-2, and then the Philadelphia Flyers are last in the division with a 1-5-1 record so far. So they've been horrendous. The only bright spot really is Mitchkov is currently leads them and all rookies in points with 7 points in 7 games. And I had him winning the Calder before the season. I think, and so far it is aging well. But outside of him, the team is pretty bad. People were overhyping them in my opinion this year because last year they took a step forward points wise. However, you look at it, most of it was just their surprising start in the first half of the season. Like they were surprising everyone, but in the second half of the season, they were really one of the worst teams in the league, and I think they are closer to that team than the team in the first half. So I just never, I didn't, I thought people were overrating them before the season, and it's looking like I was right. They're just not looking good. Moving on to the Atlantic, you have the Florida Panthers in first place who are currently 5-3-1, which isn't great, but considering that they've not had Kachuk and Barkov for a lot of this, so they've been without their two best forwards and two top 10 forwards in the game. I think that is pretty amazing. I think they are still a very good team or a top contender. Then you've got the Senators in second with a 4-2 record. So we'll see if this is something that they could maybe finally make the step, take a jump forward and make it back to the playoffs this year. But they're doing good so far. Not like amazing, but they're looking good. Then you get the Lightning, who are currently 4-3-0. So not they're a little they're above average. Of course, that's a very small sample size. So I think they will be a playoff team once again. As long as like Vasilevsky can do good this year, but they've got Kucherov, who's once again doing great. and you have Point, Gensel on that team. So I think they will make the playoffs this year, but I'm not sure where I'd have them finishing. Whether they'll be like a playoff spot or wild card spot. Time will tell. You have the Detroit Red Wings who are currently 4-3. Toronto Maple Leafs are currently 4-4. Sabres are currently 3-4 and 1. So I said before the season that they were really like a wide range. There was really a wide range of where they could finish. They could be one of the best teams. They could be like, or not one of the best teams, but they could be like a playoff team in the Atlantic. But they could also be one of the worst teams. And it looks like they're kind of so far they're looking kind of in the middle there, like a below average team. So it's been long. It's been a painful decade and a half in Buffalo. I do feel sorry for them, but I just don't know that they're really making it back to the playoffs this year. Of course, it's still early, but I predicted before the season that it could be a wide range, and I'm not. I think this might be a legit start for the Sabres. Excuse me. The Boston Bruins are currently 3-4 and 1, which I think they will. I know that it's disappointing for them, but I think they will get together. Some of their players aren't really showing up that well, but I think they will figure it out, and they're just too good of a team to not make the playoffs. I think this team is. I think come like, and I think in the coming weeks they will start to pick it up. And then last you got the Canadians 2-4 and 1, which no surprise there. Central, you have the Winnipeg Jets who are currently undefeated. They're an absolute wagon right now, and you look at their players. Shifley has 10 points in 7 games. Shifley's got 10 points. Ehlers has 9 points. Kyle Connor, Cole Perfetti, and Neil Pionk are currently tied with 8 points, and Morrissey has 7 points. And then Hellebuck is currently has a 940 save percentage and a 1.66 goals against average. So this team is just doing great in all areas right now. I thought they were going to be a wild card team this year. That is, there could be proving me wrong if they're even better, but yeah, it's just crazy start for the Winnipeg Jets, currently being 7-0, and they're just looking amazing. One of the best goalies in the league. Obviously, the reigning Vezina winner. You've got some really elite forwards in Ehlers, Connor, Shifley, and then on defense you got like Morrissey and Pionk. So they're looking good right now. Then second place you got the Minnesota Wild, who are currently 5-2, and they're last year was very disappointing for them, but I think it looks like they're bouncing back this year. You got Kirill Kaprizov currently has 13 points. I had him winning the Hart before the season, and it's aging well so far. I just said that while, because remember the Hart goes to like the player who's most valuable, not necessarily the best player, and I said I felt like Minnesota was going to make it back to the playoffs with him being a huge part in it. So I still think he's going to win the Hart. Or not going to, like he'd still be my pick for Hart just because the Wild I think will make it back to the playoffs, and he'll, like I said, will be a big part of it. So they've got some other good pieces too, though. Like Matt Boldy currently has 10 points. Zuccarello and Rossi both have 8 points, and then Philip Gustafson currently has a 952 save percentage, which that's what really hurt them last year, was the goaltending was so bad. And I think that if he can still be, if he can just be like some of what he was in 2022-23, then they should definitely make the playoffs. It's just the goaltending last year. Like they had a horrendous start last year because of goaltending. Moving on, you got the St. Louis Blues, who are currently 5-3. Utah Hockey Club is currently 4-3, so they've cooled down a bit since their amazing start. I think the future's bright for them. I just said I don't think they're a legit team yet. I think they are like another year or two away from being a contending for an actual playoff spot. Then the Colorado Avalanche are currently 4-0, which they started off the season terribly. They were 0-4, but then they've won their past 4 games, so they now have won every game since that start. And I think that was just a bad start for them. They've been one of the best teams in the league the past few years, and I think that is going to continue. Just really, my biggest thing with them is so currently Cale Makar is having an amazing start. He currently leads the league in points with 15 points in 8 games. The biggest problem with Makar though is he's never healthy. So like I actually had Adam Fox win the Norris before the season, and I think Makar is the best defenseman in the league. I think he is. I think if he's healthy, he should definitely win the Norris. It's just that he misses like 10 to 15 games every season. So if he stays healthy, then he should cruise to Norris this year. But if he misses like 10, 15, maybe even 20 games, then it gets kind of dicey. So we'll see if he can stay healthy. That's the biggest question mark for him. But back to just the Colorado's as a team, they've got McCarr, they've got McKinnon, Ranson still leading them. They're still a very elite roster for the most part. The biggest X factor is just goaltending because Alexander Georgiev was not good last season. He's been even worse this season currently with an 810 save percentage and a 4.99 goals against average. And they have had Justus Anunen, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, come in, and he's been good the past two games, but with a 917 save percentage and a 2.08 goals against average. But I have to see more than just 3 games from him to truly believe that he's going to be a legit starter for them. So yeah, I think this team's still amazing. It's just the goaltending is the biggest X factor, or they're amazing for the most part, aside from the goaltending. And the goaltending is just so important, though, that that's really going to be the determining factor on if they can really contend this year, is how good the goalies are. Then Chicago Blackhawks are currently 2-4-1, which not surprising. And then the Nashville Predators have had a very disappointing start, currently 1-5 after having such high hopes before the season, and I think they could still get it together, but their acquisitions over the offseason, they had one of the busiest off seasons, and their acquisitions are not panning out. Like Steven Stamkos currently has just 1 goal in 6 games so far, so he's been very disappointing. And Brady Shea has been very disappointing too. His defensive numbers are not good, so their offseason acquisitions that were supposed to really boost them up this year have not been living up to expectations. So we'll see what happens with them if they can pick it up, or if they maybe even every year there's at least one team that's really disappointing that misses the playoffs that was supposed to make it, and we'll see if that's Nashville this year. But time will tell, like everything else, I say. Then finally, the Pacific. You get in number one, you've got the Calgary Flames, who are the biggest surprise in the league, in my opinion. Currently 5-1-1, and they were supposed to be rebuilding this year. I had them one of the worst teams in the league, and they're currently one of the best teams. So we'll see if they sustain it. I don't think they will. If I had to choose, I'd say no. Although you just never know because teams do surprise people sometimes. I was one of the people in 2022-23 who said the Bruins were going to miss the playoffs before a season, and then I was so wrong about that. They went and set the record for most points in a season, or tied the record. So I think we'll see what the Flames do this year. I don't think they'll do what the Bruins did in 2022-23, but they could very well surprise everyone. Currently, Rasmus Anderson has 9 points. Jonathan Huberdeau has 7 points, so he's point per game. We'll see if he's bouncing back this year after having a very disappointing first 2 seasons in Calgary. Then Zari has 6 points and Calgary has 5 points. They're getting good goaltending too from Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar. So we'll see what the Flames do this year, if they sustain it or if they fall off. But either way, it's been an amazing start for them. Very surprising, a huge surprise for the league. Then you got the Kings in second place in the Pacific with a 4-2-2 record. Golden Knights are currently third with 4-2-1. Then you've got the Kraken 4-3-1, which the biggest surprise for the Kraken is Matt Beniers. He obviously had an amazing season in 2022-23, winning the Calder, but then last year had a sophomore slump. We thought this year he'd bounce back, but currently has just 1 assist, I'm pretty sure, so far. So we'll see. Maybe the rookie season, which is a really good season for him, and he's not this legit player, or he's not as legit as we thought he was after his rookie season. But he can, hopefully for the Kraken, he can pick it up, but we'll see. Then you got the Canucks, who are currently 3-1-2. Ducks are currently 3-2-1, and Oilers are currently 2-4-1, which they had a horrible start last year, but it's once again happening this year. And I mean, you just can't do that every year. Last year they had an amazing comeback, but will that happen the same way this year is a question. Everyone's kind of underperforming for Edmonton right now. Connor McDavid currently has 8 points, so that's over a point per game, but by his standards, that's pretty low. And same thing happened last year, but like I said, you can't have this happen every year. You can't start like this every year. Then Leon Draisaitl currently has 6 points, Evan Bouchard has just 2 points, and Zach Hyman has 0 points. And then the goaltending's been terrible too. Stuart Skinner has a .866 save percentage, and Calvin Pickard has a .852 save percentage. So everyone in Edmonton's underperforming right now. And last year they had a horrible start and got it together, like I said. But I'm not sure how easy they'll be this year. I think they will still make the playoffs probably, but we'll have to see what they do. Like they need to get it together sooner rather than later. And then last in the Pacific, the only team without winning the league, the San Jose Sharks. No surprise. Currently 0-6-2. They've got a bright future, but they're nowhere near there yet. Obviously, Macklin Celebrini's been injured since after his first game, but either way, their core is very promising, but it's still very young, and I still thought they were going to be the worst team in the league again this year. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna play music for a few more minutes, and then I'll get back with some Caps news to end the show. All right, for the final segment, like I always do, I'm going to talk about some Caps news. The Caps have obviously had an amazing start, their best start since 2015, and they're currently 5-1-0. They've won their past 5 games after losing their first game. So I love what I'm seeing from them. They're getting contributions all throughout the lineup. Dylan Strome currently leads them in points with 9, but Connor McMichael's second with 8. Tom Wilson's third with 6. John Carlson has 6 as well, and Alex Ovechkin is tied for 5th place with Pierre-Luc Dubois, both with 5 points. Tom Wilson obviously had an amazing start. Has not done anything in the past 2 games, but had a goal in the first 6 games, each of the first 4 games. So yeah, they're just getting contributions all throughout the lineup, offensively. Defensively, they've looked good too. Jacob Chikrin's been an amazing addition for the Caps. Who they got in the offseason. I'm really liking him. The pair between the pair of him and John Carlson's looking amazing. They're just looking very like complete all throughout the lineup. They're playing well together. Um, I just re- I just really like what I'm seeing from this team. Um, yes, they did. Yes, Philly and or yes, 2 of their wins were against Philly, which is kind of an easy game, but they also got a win against New Jersey last weekend. They got they beat the last week they beat the Stars and the Golden Knights, who were undefeated before that. So they've beat some legit teams here. I'm hoping to sustain it, but yeah, that's I like I like the sorry, I'm kind of lost my train of thought here. I'm liking the fourth line too, like with Duhane, Dowd, and Radish. Just very gritty, kind of like when they had like Garner Hathaway on their fourth line. I like this fourth line looking very gritty and stuff, which you always need from your fourth line. The forwards are all 4 lines are producing on offense, and yeah, I don't think there's really much more to say. I love what I'm seeing from this team, and I'm hoping they keep it up, but time will tell. They play Tampa Bay tomorrow, so we'll see what they do. We'll see if they win, but to make their streak 6 in a row. But they've already had their 5 game win streak has already equaled the win streak of last year. So I've been saying I think this team. I know people are saying they got lucky last year to make the playoffs, but I thought the team was overall better in every way this year. People really counted out Tom Wilson before the season, and he's kind of proven them wrong. But yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.